When Malaya received their independence in 1957, Malaysia was established when Malaya united with Borneo Nation of Sabah and Sarawak, resulting in ethnic diversity in the country. Ethnic diversity in the nation will create an extensive variety of belief, tradition, employment opportunities, and other aspects that will lead to numerous of conflict. For example, even in the colonial era before Merdeka, when the British granted the Malays substantial benefit, which might cause dissatisfaction from other races. On May 10, 1969, when Malaysia conducted its third federal election, there was serious conflict, which is when non-Bumi Putra were dissatisfied over issues like the decision to make Bahasa Malaysia as the main language of education in school. Due to the serious ethnic unrest, the parliamentary government was suspended for 2 years and the new economic policy NEP was implemented.
Hello everyone, I'm RAMDAN and now I'm going to clarify the policy problem to you guys. Before the establishment of the new economic policy, the racial rights in May 1969 demonstrate that there was a sense of distrust and conflict among the citizens with different races in Malaysia. So, the implementation of NEP is really needed due to a number of factors. The first one is the poverty problem. According to Economic Planning Unit of Prime Minister Department in 1970, the rural area stated much higher poverty rate than the urban area. Based on the statistics, we could see that the poverty among the citizens is very critical, specifically Malays who live in the rural area with 58.7% poverty rate. This poor condition must be understood in the context of group-based processes that embed the poor in exploitative and frequently racial social interactions. Next, racial unity was the next factor of the implementation of NEP. The lack of racial unity and understanding through economic activity is the vital problem. This issue arises due to the horrific event of 13 May 1969, which exposed the genuine manifestation of Malaysia's three big ethnic group sentiment. Since Malaysia's independence on August 31, 1957, the economic disparity between Malays and Chinese has been particularly large. Lastly, the unbalanced capital ownership in the corporate sector is also one of the policy problems. Many capital owners were controlled by foreigners after the independence. They controlled most of the business equity in 1970, while Bumi Putras owned just slightly less than 2%. So, when the rate of share capital among Bumi Putras is being the lowest, which is at only 2.4% in 1970, the issue becomes very huge during the moment. That is all from me. Now I will pass to KAMILIA.
Assalamualaikum, my name is KAMILIA Binti and I will explain the first objective of NEP, which is to eradicate poverty. One of the approaches that was taken to achieve this includes increasing the productivity and income of those who produce low output by employing new techniques and better facilities. Many methods have been utilized to implement this plan in Malaysia, such as planting paddy twice a year and outside of the planting season. Other than that, implementing the strategy in the first objective includes improving the standard and quality of life through education and training. Many parties, namely public administrations and private organizations, have offered scholarships to encourage Malaysians to become more involved in education as a way to overcome poverty. For instance, MARA had played an important role in the surge of scholarships awarded to the Bumi Putras during the implementation of NEP. Lastly, to empower the people in the fight against poverty, many organizations offered financial and technical aid to small and medium businesses. You may have heard of Ramli Food Processing Sendirian Berhad? Well, yes, the burger. Thanks to the substantial financial support of public and private institutions, many SME businesses from food production to fashion were able to establish themselves in the country and grow into household names.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. I'm back to my lecture, Ms. Jamhirah and fellow classmates. I'm SHAHRUL, sharing from AM2284F. Would like to continue our presentation by stating the second objective of new economic policy NEP and the strategy that have been implemented by the governments in order to achieve the second pillar of this policy. The second objective of new economic policy is to restructure the society to eliminate the identification of races with the economic function. Therefore, there are four strategies that have been taken by the government in order to ensure the second goal can be achieved. One of the strategies to restructure the society is to increase the people's ownership in the private sector, as the strategy aims to increase the ownership of Bumiputras to at least have 30% of the total share in the private and business sector. Furthermore, the second strategy of restructuring the society also includes building a trading community among the Bumiputra. Among the steps in order to make Malaysian society become a trading society is by increasing Bumiputra's ownership in the economy through the establishment of Urban Development Authority (UDAR) in 1971 and the launch of Pemodanan Nasional Berhad as well as Amanah Saham Nasionals. Next, another strategy in restructuring a multiracial society is by developing areas that have been backward but have high potential, which is by doing a regional development. The objectives of the regional planning and development under this policy is to reduce the inequality of living standard between regions by doubling the growth rate of the undeveloped region, fully exploiting the potential of human and physical resources in the developed region, as well as generalizing distribution of the basic service and facilities. In addition, the government has also tried to open more educational opportunities to further their studies within and outside of the country Malaysia. This means that the government has encouraged more Bumiputras to continue their study in Malaysia or outside the country of Malaysia, as to increase the number of Bumiputra workers in professional fields such as law, medicine, architecture, engineering, and accounting. That's all from me for the objective and strategy. And I would like to pass to the next presenter, which are Muhammad Zofran, SITI SYAMIMI, and KAMILIA AFIQAH, as they will explain in details about the evolution of new economic policy.
For the policy evolution, first we look into the first problem, which is related to this disproportionate poverty rate in the country. The Malaysian government's continuous effort to support resilient and sustainable economic growth has virtually eliminated extreme poverty among all ethnic groups, with a significant reduction in poverty incidence overall. Poverty has reduced across all ethnic groups, strata and regions, including among Bumiputra communities, Chinese and Indians. According to figures 4 and 5, poverty was reduced across all ethnic groups, strata and regions, and there was a reduction in poverty incidence among the Bumiputra communities from nearly 65% in 1970 to 23% in 1990. So millions have been lifted out of poverty. However, Malaysia remains at the top of the poverty list with a 23% poverty rate in 1990 compared to 5.4% for Chinese and 7.6% for Indians. The new economic policy has made efforts to eliminate disparities among ethnic groups, but criticism remains about its implementation. Thus, the problem of disproportionate poverty that arose with the implementation of new economic policies to eradicate poverty was not resolved because poverty still exists, though it has been reduced. Next, the policy evolution related to the racial unity problem. The May 1969 racial riots in Kuala Lumpur, where mostly Chinese people were killed, led to the creation of the new economic policy in June 1971. The NEP aimed to address economic inequality between the Malay and non-Malay communities in Malaysia, with a focus on employment distribution, and in relation to the goal of reorganizing employment in all sectors and levels. The figure illustrates the rapid progress in the distribution of employment, reflecting the composition of races in the country. Clearly, it shows that the new economic policy has succeeded in improving employment distribution between races, particularly in the mining and administration sectors, with an increase in Bumiputra participation. The NEP is an affirmative policy that aims to address the marginalization of socio-economically disadvantaged groups in Malaysia. The third evaluation regarding the new economic policy problem is related to unbalanced capital ownership in the corporate sector. The ownership of corporate assets in Malaysia before and after the introduction of the new economic policy. Before the new economic policy was implemented, foreigners owned 62% of all corporate assets, while Bumiputra owned only 4%. However, following the NEP, the ownership structure changed significantly. In 1985, foreign ownership fell further to 24.9%, with non-Bumiputra ownership at 57% and Bumiputra ownership at 80%. The NEP played a significant role in increasing Bumiputra ownership and reducing foreign ownership in Malaysian companies.
Hi, I will now evaluate the first objective. There were many initiatives taken to fulfill the first objective of NEP, such as encouraging people to be involved in agriculture and making improvements in the agriculture sector by employing new techniques and better facilities. About 1/3 of Malaysia's GDP at the time the NEP was first launched was made up of that sector, which indicated that the approach in achieving the first goal was making good progress. Nevertheless, a reputable Malaysian economist, Jomo Kuam Sundaram, raised a reasonable argument on the approaches made to achieve the policy, which is that under the NEP, there was no official commitment to reducing income inequality except between ethnic groups. So even if the poverty rate were to decline, income inequality can still grow. It will become an issue because income inequality keeps more than half of the population from moving up the socio-economic ladder, which results in a higher cost of living for the majority and an increase in crimes, mental illness, and social instability. Therefore, the NEP should have outlined the characteristics of poverty and devised plans for not only eradicating it, but also achieving income equality throughout the nation.
Lastly, the evaluation of Objective and Strategy 2, which is to restructure the society. Progress achieved in restructuring employment, that the employment pattern of the country ethnic grouping reflects on their population. The basic idea of these goals and objective was to lift up the economic position of the Bumiputra. The restructuring program has two aims, which is restructuring of employment pattern and reorganization of ownership in the corporate sector. Bumiputra also representative in the modern sector such as manufacturing sector and non-government service sector as a result of increased supply of educated and skilled Bumiputra workers. Bumiputra also will be given the opportunity in enabling them to participate in skill occupation in the private sector, whereby there will be a greater demand for manpower. To conclude, Bumiputra employment has increased in all three sectors from 1970 to 1980.
Hi, my name is NURUL Binti RIZAL. So I would like to continue with the policy recommendation. For the first one is recommendation for the disproportionate poverty rate in the country. We are obligated to acknowledge that NEP has not been successful in addressing the issue of eradicating poverty. So initiative could be taken to improve and resolve all the problems regarding poverty in Malaysia, such as through the provision of employment opportunities and career progression plan. For instance, stakeholders should come out with a preventative plan to guarantee that the appropriate training are paired with the appropriate training provider and the government rules are adhered to. In contrast to the current disconnect, there should be a connectivity formed between the policy of the government and the requirement of the industry. In order for the business and government agency to work together effectively, a formal need assessment for training should be carried out. Then, individuals with B40 occupational classification who are often found in the lower level role can be pulled into the career path that lead to an B40 occupational classification shift. Because of mismatch or lack of appropriate knowledge, skill, talent and attitude, many of the households that belong to the B40 group tend to work in lower level job or unemployed altogether. Training programs that concentrate on data science, green accounting and forensic economics are examples of the type of education that can help students acquire the information, skill and capabilities that are most applicable in this period of the Industry Revolution IR 4.0. So, in order to abolish poverty permanently in Malaysia, Malaysia should focus on uplifting the B40 youth group. Poverty would be eliminated for the good as their children grow up to become adults or parents who were part of the middle 40% household income group M40 once they were brought into the middle 40% household income group.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NADZIRAH Binti and I'll explain the second recommendation for racial unity. We are obligated to acknowledge that the NEP has been successful in addressing the issue of racial unity. The initiative that could be taken to improve and resolve all the problems regarding racial unity in Malaysia by helping the poor people from all races. According to the economist Professor Dr. Wu Binti, Malaysia should switch straight to an income-based social policy in order to improve national competitiveness and to upgrade administrative performance as well as influencing to racial unity. With the implementation of these ideas, race-based regulation should be replaced with need and merit-based ones, freeing up tertiary education and the markets.
The third one is for a recommendation for the unbalanced capital ownership in the corporate sector is expanding equity ownership. We have to admit that NEP has not been successful in resolving the issue of unbalanced capital ownership in the corporate sector. This is something that needs to be acknowledged. In light of this, action could be taken in Malaysia to find solution to the problem and effort will continue to be made to strengthen and improve effective Bumiputra participation in the corporate sector, as well as increase their equity ownership and control of company to at least 30% by the year. In this regard, a particular focus will be placed on expanding equity ownership among Bumiputra in Sabah and Sarawak, excluding the Kadazan Duzun, Iban, Bajau, Murut, Bidayuh, Malanau and other Bumiputra ethnic minorities that are present. The attempt to restructure will be carried out within the context of an economy that is rapidly expanding, with increased opportunities for all nations and without resorting to micro-restructuring of existing business in order to accomplish this goal. The need to establish a more equitable participation of various ethnic groups in the economy will also serve as a guiding principle for the implementation of the SSIT program, which be guided by this principle. To further expedite to process the restructuring, improvement will be made to the program that provide opportunities for young people who have the potential to become corporate leaders or young entrepreneurs, particularly in modern and strategic industry.
The fourth recommendation is to restructure society. It is necessary for us to acknowledge that the NEP has not been successful in resolving the issue of restructuring society. By minimizing group exclusion and promoting equal opportunity where restructuring society would be active in fields involving the distribution of limited opportunities, the use of Bumiputra exclusive access or the implementation of ethnic quota could solve this problem. The ongoing expansion of the economy and the prospects in the private sector should be the official government's main concern. Minimizing group exclusion and promoting equal opportunity would have represented a more sensible and measured assurance where NEP could know the degree of confidence they have in the data that they are using to make a decision in order to restructure society, as opposed to the assurance that no group will feel deprived. For instance, the NEP needs to clearly define the major society restructuring sectors, such as education, the development of skills and competitiveness in terms of higher education, high-level employment, business development, and asset ownership.
To conclude, it was appropriate to continue this policy after the evaluation done, while making some modifications that will enhance the effectiveness of the NEP. This policy have provided people with tremendous benefit and have also been crucial for the development of our country. But there are still some weaknesses. It would be more effective if this policy could be modified in a way that does not associate race with economic function. For example, by following the recommendation given, since the suggestions made are based on the evaluation of the policy before, to ensure that they can guarantee the success of the policy in the future.